Okay, so good evening, everybody. I want to say, first of all, thank you for joining us tonight. So me and Zohrab will be sharing our experience tonight about how to be a manager, what are the pitfalls when you become a new manager. We were just talking earlier, a lot of these are just from learning through experience, not really any textbook when we were becoming manager, however many years ago, 20 plus years ago when I first become a manager, I think. So semua main tembak masa start dulu. Okay. So with that, I want to start with a polling question first. Yeah. And I'm going to launch this poll. So the question is, so this is a survey. So I was reading up on this topic, and obviously it's a guess. Yeah. How many percentage of managers do you think receive any training about how to be a manager? So have a guess. So somebody did a survey, or in the US, or in the US they do all kinds of survey. How many percent of managers receive training, you think? So okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll now and show you the result. So many of you think about 25%. Yeah. So you're about right, actually. So this person who did this survey said that at that time in the US, only about 80%, only about 20% receive any training when they become a manager. And yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I think when you become a manager, normally we tell you, okay, this is the KPI, this is your new KPI. This is the team that you need to manage now, and so just do it. Make sure no problem, right? Normally that's the instruction, and then let's see how it works out. So yeah, not so many people have structured program about how to be a manager. I think now more companies realize that, and thanks to people like Zohrab who goes around doing training, people are more aware and that you need to have a proper onboarding and all that, to give more guidance, because it's not a simple transition to be a manager. Yeah. Okay. And then next question, I've got another question. So related to that, again, this guy, the same guy who did this survey, how many successful manager after a year, you think? So you can be more optimistic. So some of you say 25%, a few 50%. And I don't know also. Right. Okay. So I will end this poll and show you the result, what you think. So most of you are on the lower estimate of 25% to 50%. And that, again, in this survey is about right. And I didn't read what is definition of successful manager. I think probably it's about how many survive being a manager in the first year. And they say about 50%. And probably about right. I think 50% are quite natural to it and can be a good manager straight away. And some people struggle a little bit and need more guidance and need more support in their first year as a manager. Yep. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Let me just share my screen. Yep, so I have some stuff that I want to show you. Okay. Good job. Share screen, share screen. Share screen. Belum lagi. Nampak ke tak?
Nampak semua.
Nampak semua lagi. Present. Okay. Nampak betul dah. Okay. Okay, then so for tonight, basically, this is another episode from my webinar series. And most of you know me already, so I don't need to introduce myself here. And again, what I want to stress is what I've covered in the previous episode about how you optimize your CV, your LinkedIn page, your interview skill, presentation skill, work performance, your image, and your network. All these are important when you're thinking about your career progression. And for those who hasn't seen the previous episode, you can go on my YouTube. That's the QR code for that, and you can look it up. And tonight is related to the work performance, essentially, that we can be better as a manager. That's the aim for most people now, that they want the next step is to be a manager. And that's what I want to discuss tonight with Zohrab and share our experience and what you can take away from that. Yeah. So with that, I want to let Zohrab introduce himself. So Zohrab and I, we got to know each other when through our mentoring program, the volunteer mentoring that we do. And when I found out that this is what he does for a living, teaching people how to be a manager, I thought this is wonderful because not many people do that actually. And that's why I wanted to invite him. And luckily he said yes to the invitation tonight. So do you want to introduce yourself, Zohrab?
All right, thank you, Doc, and good evening to everyone. Right, good evening to all of you. Well, actually, Doc had a little bit of there was an incentive that we had it earlier, but there was a mutual incentive over this current season of fruits. So we do have some common interest besides just mentoring. But thank goodness we didn't have any, so that we have our voice for tonight. So it's a pleasure to be on your show, Doc. And happy to be seeing some familiar names here as well this evening and getting to know some of you who are, well, for me, the first time. A little bit of a quick background before coming out on my own. So 4 years ago, I set up my company called Enablers Consulting and Solution, whereby I focus on organizational development, managerial development, apart from coaching as well as mentoring. I had been in the workplace for about 30 years prior to that. So about 30 years of work experience, starting as many fresh graduate, based on your degree, you start with it. So being a legal and economics background, I started in the legal field. Yes, was admitted to the Malaysian legal fraternity. I moved on to be part of the South African Embassy under the President Mandela's period of time, his tenure as president, before going into international business. Then 1998 economic crisis came, and I was a statistics of that time. That was the first time we learned about this word called pegging. Ringgit is being pegged to USD. Wow. What is this? That time I didn't know clothes peg only, but now we got peg 3.5. Wow, okay. And therefore, the whole thing changed, right? So it was a bit of a tough time. It was, I'll say, a dark moment in my life, Doc. But fortunately, through mentoring, through the resilient, I'll call it in a sense, in my time, with the support of many, I restarted my career. And I restarted and spent about 25 years in the insurance industry ultimately. So I did the operations side, I did the technical before coming into the people development. So I aptly put it as my OTP, the one-time pin, right? Operations, technical, and people development. Before now stepping out to be honest. So my current, I'll say my interest and my focus is really about the middle managers or the managers, including the first time managers. Because there's a lot on our shoulders when you're a manager. I think we're going to be having a conversation around this evening. And looking into the other aspect of, how do we not only look for ourselves, how do we even start looking out for others? So actually, that's what drives me today. It's all about people development, because I do believe that if we develop somebody, the world eventually will become a better place. It's a paid forward concept ultimately. So that's a bit of background about myself.
Thank you, sir. I agree with that. I say to people that I cannot help everyone, but I can help someone, right? So
yep.
We try our best to do that. Yeah. But actually, where does your name come from, Zohrab? That's not a usual Malaysian name.
Okay, so I get that a lot. So for those who don't know yet, it is actually a name in my birth certificate. So it is there with me since the day I was born. This name, it's actually from I'll say the Persian Old English poetry era.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Because my father was an English teacher for a short while, and he fell in love with this book entitled Zohrab and the Rustum. So it's supposed to spell as S. So if you Google up, you should be able to see this. It's turned into a few movies. One of it's the Kite Runner, if I'm not mistaken, with my name. But essentially, it's a
Oh, the
story of
kite runner. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
actually the original story is about the king and the prince. So
Uh-huh.
today, this name you can find a lot in the Armenian area, Armenian state, in Persia, and some out of other places in the world. In
Right.
Malaysia, Doc, there's currently, based on my last check 10 years ago, it's only 5 of us with that name. But we got Malay, we got Chinese, we got Indian. Yeah, actually got all 3 races, and we got male and female gender. So very diversified, very inclusive name.
Awesome. We need to get you some work in Armenia
Yes.
instead of Latvia. So Zohrab been to Latvia recently. Now we need to get him to Armenia.
We love the work.
Awesome. Thank you, Zohrab, for that introduction. So I hope you can hear already the vast experience that he has in him, and which is what we're going to try and drag out as much as possible to maximize your time here tonight. Yeah. So I'm gonna start with this question. So as when you start out working, then everyone thinks that the next career ladder in terms of where I need to be next is a manager. And this question is a question I ask people when they are when I'm not sure whether they are ready. Yep. So I wanted to ask what Zohrab think. Is everyone made to be can be a manager?
Wow. Okay, wait. Can or want to be? Okay.
Yeah, can, want, and all that.
I think this is an interesting question, and I yeah, Sulun is controversial, but hey, controversial is part of life, right? That's how it sparks interest, and that's how we learn. I think for me, there's 2 parts to this question. The very first one that's I asked, is it can be or actually will want to be, or because a lot of times in today's context, like what you say, many, if you ask many, even myself in the early days, oh, what is your cita-cita? What is your ambition? What's your aspiration? Yeah, of course, I want to grow the corporate ladder. And ultimately, that means, yeah, I would want to have the change of title towards that lah.
Yeah.
Correct? That's I
Manager,
want.
director, semua ni kan.
Everything lah, all these titles come in, but that's what I want. Correct? But is that truly what I want, or is it something that is going to be meaningful to me? I think that is, to me, that's another exploration altogether. Because after going through the many years of corporate life, yes, being in an individual contributor scenario, being a manager of a team of 2 to as big as 36 in terms of direct, with an ultimate 100 as a department. I think this is a very, I'll say a question that needs to be answered a few ways. I think everyone can be a manager if they want to. They put their heart and soul and they learn to do it. But will everyone be a successful manager? That's another story altogether.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So for me, this question is to make people understand that it's not the only way for career success that you have to be a manager. You can also, if you don't want to, then be a single individual contributor and still be successful. I worry a little bit when people think to be successful, you must be a manager, you must be a director or something like that. So therefore, it's a very very, well, I said, popular way of doing it, but it's not the only way. And to be honest, in my team, I really have taught people out of being a manager when I feel that they don't have the people skill, because we know a lot of being a manager is actually the people skill.
Correct.
And most of the time it is people problem that keeps me awake at night rather than anything else. It's all the people stuff. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to start with this question first.
Yeah, and if I can also just add on, to what you said today, being successful doesn't necessarily mean you be a manager and all. Because today you can still be successful mastering what you're good at. You become a
Exactly.
specialist. That means you
Yep.
climb a vertical line through the area expertise. And that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
It's perfectly fine. And we still need these kind of specialists around, right? The high professionals as in the talent management, we want the high professionals around as well. We do not want everyone to be manager, then nobody's going to do work.
True.
We also do not want everybody to be on the other side. Then everybody is going to look at each other and not going to collaborate. Again, nothing's going to happen. So we still need to have a balance of both. That is from my experience.
Yep, yep. I agree. I think you need a balance, and especially now I feel that there are even more specialization, that currently there are so many new jobs that nobody really knows. Nobody really knows where they're going to be heading. There are more and more new things, and they're more specialized, and I think those are going to be more popular in the future.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and ultimately is whatever it is, ultimately you want to see success, correct?
Yeah.
Be it you want to stick to being an individual, you want to become a manager, you still want to be successful. I know Namala asked back to Doc's poll, what was the definition of being a successful manager? I really don't know. But I mean, of course, in my context, it would be someone who is able to deliver the department's goals through the people that is part of the team. And it shouldn't be an individual anymore. It's a holistic team contribution.
Yep, yep. And I think an easy example is just about the doctor in hospital. You can be if you stay in the public sector, then you are more working in a team. In the private sector, it's more individual, that you run your own business as an individual rather than as a team, rather than as a manager. So again, it's a choice, and you don't have to be a manager. So hopefully people here tonight, so don't think you have to be a manager. That's the only way. You can also be an individual contributor and still be successful. However, if you do want to be a manager and not yet a manager now, so Zohrab gonna have some tips for you today. So what are the key things, as from your experience, that people need to know? There are obviously hundreds of stuff that we can talk about. Let's say maybe the top 3 things that when you go around teaching that you stress on when people become a new manager.
This one, well, rightly said, there's a lot of things to look into. Well, what are the main things to be? I think even before this, we should actually ask ourselves, if really I'm promoted to be a manager. First thing first, do I even know what it is all about? Number one. And number two, chances are in Malaysia, from my experience, having been promoted to that position or move into that position, I want to ask everybody, how many of you here who has been individual contributor before, now becoming a manager in one particular organization, and just take it that you are promoted within the same organization? How many have you gotten a new job description to begin with when you're promoted? I'll say chances. How many? Can somebody put in the chat, how many of you actually, if you have been promoted from within, how many of you have actually gotten a new? Yeah. Thank you, Gwen.
Gwen said no, didn't.
Mana ada one.
Really?
I think that's already one of the I'll say one of the gap that I realized. We promote,
and no change
no change, assuming that you know as well. And therefore, that's why we are having a lot of scenario that managers who are getting the title are still doing the job of before.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You cannot let go because perhaps this is stuck in my mind that since my JD from that is my individual contributor time, when I'm promoted, I'm continuing doing that. So we forget to look at what actually manager is supposed to do.
Right? So the expectation from the company is also not clear.
Not clear. You just see tonight from right, Gwen, Zulaika, Hamiza,
Well, quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yes, actually, it is very weird. When you get promoted, there's no change in your job description, and then we get this tongue bashing from us. Hey, but you're a manager already, what? You're not supposed to be doing what you've been doing before as an individual contributor or as an executive.
Yep.
So guess what's happening here? So that, to me, that is the starting block of why a lot of times it doesn't happen. Because what are the things that we need? Essentially, we need to transit from now, if I look at myself as a manager, I must take care of myself or deliver, be accountable and deliver what I'm supposed to do for my department. Yet I'm also equally responsible and accountable for the performance of my team members. I think that is the first ultimate change of mind that we need to have. That is no longer about me, it's about we delivering together. Yeah. And how do I make this happen? This is where, as a manager, I must be able to step up. If I have got a head of department and I must be able to reach out to them and say, can you please tell me what are we going towards? What is the ultimate goal? So that I can align my team towards that.
Yep.
And once I know that, that means the other area is I must be able to spend time. This is where we need to invest time to know each and every single team members, not a touch and go basis, but really know them so that you really discover what are their strengths, their experience, what are their no-go zones, what are their kryptonites, for example, right? So that you really build that kind of relationship before you start to, I will use this word for distribute according to strengths and weakness. I'm not going to touch on the word that you wanted to say earlier on. Right? I think to me, that is the foundation. We need to be able to invest time and have this change of mindset and see the whole alignment, the whole connection to where the company is going first. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I think that's the big picture, kan? The big picture. First, you need to understand where are you taking your team towards. And then that second part is the hardest one about understanding your team. The bigger it is, then the more the more different characters you have. And I have to say, it was only later on in my managerial life, you can call it that, I pay attention to the different personality. Before that, I was more, okay, one blanket approach for everybody. And then it becomes quite hard. And then like you said just now about understanding the strength and weaknesses. Once I started doing that, then it gets easier. Yeah. It gets a little bit easier how to manage the team.
Yeah, because ultimately we are managing a pool of people who has got their capabilities, their experience, and some is we will need them at a particular time because some skill sets will be more necessary at particular areas.
Yeah.
And hence the biggest question that always we have is delegation supposed to be my capability?
Yeah. Okay, now you mentioned the word.
Yeah, I mentioned the word, right?
Now you mentioned the word delegation. And that is for me number one problem. All my new managers, they will always come to me, I don't know how to delegate. They always come to me and I expect it already. So whenever I have new managers, I will tell them, you will have problem with delegation. Don't worry, you will find out one day how to do it, because at the end of the day, it's trial and error, right? Because everyone is different. What about from your side? Any tips how you can learn that faster? Yeah, because it is trial and error, but how can we do it faster?
So this one I'll say is, for me, it's also trial and error. Now, going back to what I shared, I think one of the first fundamental to be able to be able to delegate effectively. And when I say delegate, I'll come back to what delegation is supposed to mean. We need to see that whole line of sight again. Where is the organization heading? What are the key objectives? And what is my department's contribution to that? That is the first line of sight that we need to know. So that as managers, I then know what is expected of me and my individual team members. Once I know that, then we must, through the days or the time that we invested, and sometimes this investment, not only time, it's also your own pocket money, because you got the belanja lah, Malaysian style, right? Let's set that tarik lah, let's go for lunch lah. All these are part of this whole relationship building at the workplace to discover the strengths or the areas that may not be their strengths or what they would like to do in your team member. And that one will be the core or the foundation for us to know whether this person has got the right capability, has got the right mindset, the willingness to take up certain challenges. If we are able to do more of this, this is where we are able to delegate correctly. Delegate in a sense that we are delegating away a joint responsibility to deliver what is expected. I'm the manager, I'll be responsible, be accountable. When I hand it to you, you are also equally going to be accountable for what is expected. But I'm not going to leave you dry. I think what is happening in our context of this part of the world, I cannot speak for too many parts of the world yet, although I have some exposure in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Indonesia. A lot of managers in this day's context use delegate as another facade for Tai Chi. Yeah, I delegate to you, I delegate to you, I delegate to the manager do it. That's because they say, yeah, I need to delegate what. So that is where I'll say the whole thing is gone. That means you are not assigning the responsibility and getting somebody accountable for what they can do. It's different. If you're able to delegate based on their strengths and capabilities for the right moment, for the right time, for the right project, you will see a difference in the whole dynamics. You'll see the change in the outcome or the output. And you'll see even the entire morale is going to be different, because everybody can then perform to their best ability, their strengths.
Yeah,
I think as managers.
Because otherwise you're setting them up for failure, right? You're delegating tasks that they, for whatever reason, doesn't have the skill at all to do it. Then you just delegate like that, then really setting them up for failure.
Yeah. And guess ultimately whose failure will it be? It comes back to us as managers.
Yep.
I always believe that my success as a manager will be the success of the team member, because they are the ones who's going to bring me success. I will not be able to bring every deliverables on the table. Well, if I want to, can. If all of us here who are managers want to do that, that means you don't even want to delegate. You just want to Tai Chi away those things that it's not so nice. You just keep on. You're not going to taste victory as well. And we are going to be burdened with more and more. And that's where you start complaining, I am so stressful. Why so much work? How come my team members that can go home earlier? Why am I still here as manager working till at 10 o'clock? I'm still here. That's what's happening. Because you are not delegating. You've been Tai Chiing away most of the time. And you're holding on to what you think you can do best. Again, that may relate back to the question that I asked, and with the confirmation that our JD never changed. So perhaps that's why we don't want to let go as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we're letting go things that we're not supposed to let go, like managing people with Tai Chi to somebody else. Because our old JD say, do the task, never say manage people. I don't know.
Yeah. And what you said just now about what you do best, I want to say that what you think you do best, right? So that you are so used to doing it your way, so you think your way is the only way, the only best way. Therefore, you don't want to delegate. And I also did this before, that my way is the best way. Why do you want to change it?
Mm.
But when you open your mind, you relax the expectation that as long as the objective is clear, how they do it doesn't really matter as long as you achieve the objective. I've seen some better results than what I have done before, yeah, because now I'm letting them free in their creativity and exploring other ways of doing the same thing. And as a manager, I'm very happy when I see that we have an objective. They even surpass the objective because by the delegation, I let them be more creative with their approach. Yeah. So there's a few things you mentioned there about understanding what's the strength of your team in order to delegate properly. And then the second one is about being ready, being wanting to delegate. Yeah. You have to want to delegate because otherwise you'll be doing it yourself forever, which is
Yeah.
not the right thing.
And that's where the notion of don't grab the monkey to your back, right? Don't invite the monkey from your team members to your back, to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you've had this many times before. The pushback is always, I can do it faster.
Yeah,
I said, First time, yes. Second time also, yes. But not for the 20th time." Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And there's so many, I mean, there's so many well-known corporate figures out there. I'm sure all of you have even go back to one of the founder of one of the techie who always say, "Oh, if we already hired someone for their skill and capability, why are we still telling them what to do?" kind of thing, right?
Yep, yep,
It's
yep.
the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean,
Yep.
if we are investing time, to me, if you look at a day in the life of a manager, and that perhaps may also help someone to realize actually what is required, because there's actually a lot. A day in the life or the expectation of a manager is where we are supposed to say goodbye, a good percentage, to what you have been doing on your day-to-day task deliverables. Because now you have people to manage. And what does this look like? When we're looking at the people's perspective as a manager, your life cycle involves around, number one, hiring. We are the ones now in the leading position to make sure that we hire the right person. And that takes effort and time. Needs preparation. You need to understand even your company's competency so that you can ask the right thing to assess whether the candidate fits into that position. So that's only one bucket out of it. And if your organization is an organization or company that is on high turnover, chances are you'll spend a lot of time on interviews.
Yes.
It's going to take up majority of the time. Right? Number
Yeah.
two, besides that, you are now responsible for maybe a team of 5 or 6 or maybe up to 10. Every beginning of a financial year, you need to spend time to look at your KPIs in short, or your targets. And again, there's no shortcut. Time is required. What I've been seeing is always a shortcut: copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. But then that's not really a meaningful setting. And that's where all the World War III starts when it comes to appraisal, because there's misalignment. We must be able to sit down to have the alignment correctly. Again, knowing what is our strengths and capabilities so that we are able to distribute or assign certain of the tasks to certain members. And that's already again taking up time in the beginning of the year. Then we need to look at ongoing performance feedback. Again, if you got 6, 7 people, if you're going to take half an hour once a week or once a month, it adds up time again. Then we go into coaching. So besides feedback, you may also want to look in performance coaching. You also want to look at career coaching. Again, it takes up time. We also need to look at year-end appraisal. It's not going to be, flip a coin or throw a paper in the sand, whatever drop, that's your performance rating. You can do that. But you're not going to go away, get out of the room alive kind of scenario. Right? You need to be able to have facts. You will to assess, objectively appraise somebody. And all this throughout the year, just on this, you need to be observant. You need to be keeping in touch with them to know what's going on. Your ears, your eyes, everything must be on mode, not standby mode. And that's already a big parcel of it. Then what else? Being managers, we are always the middle layer. I always call it the patty in the burger lah. We got a team below, and we got our HODs or other senior managers above us. Now we need to then come in or step up in stakeholder management. It involves time. Again, involves time. It involves another capability. And nothing is a bed of roses. There will be crises coming up and down, suddenly appear either during the day or during the weekend or whatever time. Who's going to be triggering? Who's going to be involved with us? Right? And not forgetting the tons of meetings that managers have to attend or even chair. That's already, if you want to craft a JD, essentially that's already almost what you're supposed to do as a manager. If you're still not letting go what you're supposed to not do anymore and empower, delegate, trust your team members who can do it, you are then setting yourself even for failures. Which is why sometimes being a manager should not be your aspiration if you're not ready for this. This is what this extended or enlarged scope is all about.
The people side, right? The people side takes a lot of time. I have 10 people at the moment reporting to me. So we meet every couple of weeks for half an hour. And that's just for normal stuff. If there's other problems, then obviously a little bit longer, but it's needed. We tried different frequencies, different time duration. I've done 1 hour every month. I've done 1 hour every couple of weeks, 15 minutes every week. So different combination to see which one works the best. And currently, this seems to be the sweet spot. It's frequent enough and long enough to be able to discuss stuff, but not too frequent either, because you also don't want to keep there's comment there about micromanaging. We also don't want to give the impression of micromanaging at all, right? So therefore, about every couple of weeks to keep in touch is about the right frequency for me and my team at the moment. And everyone is different, right? That's just what works for me at the moment with my team. I might just go to some.
What you just shared, Doc, and what I think Travis has put into the chat is actually what one of the capability that all of us, if you're going to a manager position and above, must be able to develop this capability as well. Of course, in the HR learning world, they call it situational leadership. Which means in order to know what style to apply best to manage and lead your team member, you need to know what is the capability, the maturity of the team member. The maturity will come through their capability as well as their attitude and how committed they are. If someone, for example, is someone who is very new to your organization, your team, yes, they got the enthusiasm, but perhaps their know-how is not there, even though they may have the right skill and experience. But when they come into organization, the first few weeks, essentially everything is new to them. The procedures, how you go about things is different. And that's where, as managers, we must be courageous enough. I think that's another word. Be courageous enough to do a more directing style, which is a more, to some, directing is a very micromanagement, but we need to make sure that happens so that success or the foundation is clear. I need to tell you exactly what to do, where to get things. Yes, I know you have the experience, but here in this context, I need to show you that. But I will only show you or micromanage in the shortest of time. Right? Then I will let go. If you already can show it, then I will go to the extreme. That means you earn my trust. I know you can do it. All I need to tell you is when is this supposed to be due? You are able to produce, then I can empower you. I can delegate. And that's what it's supposed to be. We need to know that person to flex these different styles, as we say. There's no one right style.
And sometimes people also demand different attention from the boss. So I've also had experience when they are capable, and actually I don't need to be in touch with them so much, but their personality needed that. So therefore, I was in touch more often rather than I would have done normally. Yeah.
Mm.
So again, like you said, individualization to the person is needed. Sometimes we obviously do want to empower as much as possible, depending on situation. We might have to micromanage a little bit, and again, individual preference also plays a part in that. Yeah. So that one, to answer your question there, Travis, it's about different situation, different individual. So it's not really true that you have to avoid micromanagement at all costs. There are times and places for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I can put it, Travis and so who follow football, I put it in the context of football. Okay.
Travis love football.
Okay. No, it's the same. So let's look in the field of football. Actually, in the world today, there are only very handful who can be a player as well as a player manager at the same time. Okay, the likes of Kenny Dalglish in the past and Graham Souness probably are the only limited ones who are able to play in the team as well as being the manager. That means they're the coach of the team. But it's fine, why? The failures are plenty. So even going back to the context, even Maradona, okay, the greatest, the GOAT, right? The greatest of all times, as someone would say, failed. He was a great football individual. Then he took on the national coach position. Guess what happened? Argentina nearly missed to qualify for the World Cup. He had to be removed from the job. Doesn't mean he's poor. Yeah, because what happened is that chances are when you are still holding on to an individual mindset with the manager role, this is where it's going to come. You are then going to be assuming that everybody cannot play. You will start taking over, you will start dictating everything on the field, and everybody's going to be losing concentration. Yeah, man. And guess chances are you may also put down yourself as the number one on the list to play.
As the captain.
As captain some more. Or once you got a captain and then you put yourself in as a substitute come player manager, then now who's going to listen to the original captain? Okay. So
That's a great analogy.
so that is actually what's happening at times. And this may hold true when it comes to poor performing, which is where if somebody is not, then yes, if you are in that capacity, you should then be able to shout out and point out that, hey, you are not performing. I need to sub you. Right?
Yeah.
So Travis, okay, being a football fan, thank you for that.
I think he understands that perfectly. Right. There's another question from Nimala. So this one, what about if that you want a different but futuristic vision of the department, which has not been visualized by other current leaders? How do you move forward to move the change? How do you move forward to move the changes, So
this one sounds like a more the change agent starting the whole process,
management.
Right? how do you even get the senior there to start? No, this is not the way. But we need to go this way. Whilst this is more probably a change management or how you manage change kind of topic, but as a manager, Namala, from my experience, I think one of the first things that we can do is we should be also having a conversation with our own team members first. What do they see? What kind of inputs? Because as managers, we are also supposed to receive, not only give feedback. We're supposed to be open to listen to the ground. And our ideas may not necessarily always be the correct or the great idea. Otherwise, we're going to be living in the world of short sendiri, as some will say in Malaysia. Right? We need to have that buy-in ultimately. If there is a good enough buy-in, then we are a bit more prepared. We will have enough support when we say to the management, I think this is where we should be going. Because we know this is what we can do, and this is the value proposition that we can come up with. That is for me, that is the beginning. So one, to start off that, Nimala, is to start with our team members. And that's where being a manager plays such an important role.
Yeah, you're now the link between the people below and the the people
Yeah.
above, right? So it's a huge responsibility, actually.
It is. And I
Yeah.
empathize with all the managers. This bridge is a very fragile bridge.
Yep, yep. Trying to keep both sides happy is not easy.
You are the
Always one
messenger of
side
good
will be a
news,
little bit
messenger of good
unhappy.
news, and messenger of bad news.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be like, don't shoot the messenger. So yeah, you mentioned just now feedback, Zohrab, and that also for me another new thing as a manager about one how to give feedback, and then second about the receiving feedback. Maybe we talk first about how to give feedback. This is something that you've never had to do before if you're not a manager, and suddenly you're a manager, and again, I'm sure not many people receive training how to give feedback. So they go in and just go blah 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 blah, and then wonder why people are not listening. So what are your tips for giving feedback for all these newbie managers or future managers?
Okay. I think first thing first, we also need to understand what is feedback. Feedback is not criticizing, or a lashing out session. So for managers, we need to appreciate that feedback is actually all about improvement. It is, if somebody is off track, you want to bring them on track. If somebody is on track, you want to push them faster ahead. And that's what feedback is supposed to do. And to do that effectively, we must be factual. That means we need to know or see for ourselves what is actually happening. Do not ever rely on hearsay. That will be the first downfall that you're going to have. And we must be able to always look at again, it's about helping you to improve. So if this is a situation, this is the impact, what is it that that person in front of us can think of to pull himself or herself back on track? And this is where the coaching conversations start coming in. For me, feedback and coaching capability goes hand in hand. Goes hand in hand. Otherwise, it is just going to be a tongue lashing, or it's a penalty. It's a one-time that is not going to stick. So for me, that's why those who have gone through a training, if you just use the SBI framework, for example, the situational behavior impact, it is not complete. Because that is like, okay lah, I know this is a situation, and this is what I did and it's wrong. Okay, thank you. I will not do it again.
How can I do
Satu
better
telinga, keluar
next
satu
time?
telinga, right? But if you are able to use another model, which I mean, if you ever got an opportunity to be part of my session, is then I mix another model quite similar to SBI with the coaching GROW model, because that's where the continuous conversation is supposed to come in, to transfer the ownership of recovering whatever that is working or not working back to the person, so that this person is able to take ownership of the situation. And that's where we go back to that same analogy, that we are not going to make sure the monkey transfer to me. So the monkey will continue to be on your back. Otherwise, as managers, you're going to be having a lot of monkeys with you.
Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to add that one of the first thing that you need to make sure is to remove your emotion from it. So when you, what you said just now, that you want to see it. So therefore you've seen it, and then you get a little bit angry or annoyed or whatever it is, which is normal. So you need to go away first and calm down first, and then give the feedback. I see sometimes the problem is the managers see the problem and straight away wants to give the feedback, and the emotion is high, and then they say inappropriate things, and then wondering why the other person not listening or rising to the tension also. So that's my number one teaching to my team. When you give feedback, you need to remove your emotions. If you are emotional, go walk around a little bit until you are calmer before giving your feedback, because otherwise people cannot listen to what you want to say. And I really also fully agree about not, you must see whatever it is yourself. The worst thing is, I'm sure we've heard this before, right? Oh, I heard that you did that. I'm like, oh, that's the worst thing you can do. I fully agree with that. Don't do that. Yeah. So feedback is an important one. So if you're not a manager yet, if you become a manager, ask your new manager, can I receive some training about giving feedback and start learning about the coaching? I love the grow model. I think it's wonderful. You can even do that to your family members, actually.
Anyone.
Not just to work, to get them to do stuff. I'm sure you have kids and all that, you can use it as well.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Another question. This one from Travis from earlier on. Sorry, Travis, I didn't see it before. So he asked about introverts and extrovert as managers. Could you shed some light on this? So is there a different, is one personality better as a manager or the other one? Yeah.
Well, for me, that shouldn't be the basis of whether you're going to be effective or not. Because for me, correct me if I'm wrong, Doc. I mean, in the medical field, for those in medical field may know this. We are mostly born introverts. I think our default will be want to be introvert. We want to be quiet. That's why the me time comes in. Right?
Yep.
And a lot of times the extroverts are perhaps forced extroverts, or it's at the moment demonstrating.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we just want a one-to-one. And that's the perfect start for a manager. If you are able to do that a one-to-one time with a team member, that's where you start to discover. I don't want a successful manager will not be successful if it's always a one-to-many one. They won't go, right?
Yeah, and if you look around, yeah, there's a mixture of introvert and extrovert there as a successful manager. Yeah. And again, it's more about how you manage the people, how you do the feedback, the coaching, what we've talked about earlier. So it doesn't really depend on your personality. Yeah, for me, I have to say maybe in the beginning I was more of an introvert too, but you learn as you manage people that you need to come out of your shell a little bit more. And the first part that we discussed about understanding your team, so that requires a lot of talking to people. So therefore, naturally, you also move towards, becoming extrovert, if there's such a thing, or ambivert, as they call it, right? Yep.
Gwen had reaffirmed that, she has excellent introvert bosses throughout. Right?
Okay. Good. We have another question from Irene here. Irene, also from my company. How do you advise this? A new manager who was a great single contributor and now need to work through their people.
For me, Irene, going back to what I shared earlier on, one of the first thing, if you're promoted, two things. One, please ask Doc here for a new job description.
New job
There's a
description.
change in the job description. Putting it
New
aside.
JD.
Number two, I think the more important line, now you need to invest time to speak to each and everyone on a one-to-one basis. Get to know each team member. That, to me, is the key to success. Whenever you're promoted, including to the question that I think, Travis, you're asking, is the same. If you're part of a team before you get promoted, or now you get to be promoted, now the first thing is spend time with each and everyone. Hear them out. You share. Come to an expectation between one another. How are we going to make this work? Because being a manager now, the extra responsibility is your head is on the chopping block first, which means you must be able to impress on your colleagues or your friend or before. Say, I will at times need to really say no, because I need to make that call when things are not right. Putting friendship aside, because whatever that's going to happen is not about you as a person. It's going to be about what are we supposed to deliver, the issue in hand. It's not about the person. If you're able to distinguish this, you'll be fine. And we've seen in Malaysia, perhaps we are not so good at this yet. We are not as mature. You look at in the West, and I know, Doc, you've been more in the Western world. They can fight and argue everything, but at 5 o'clock, hee ha ha again.
Go home. Back to normal. Yeah.
To normal. And that's where one of the criteria is to be able to make that tough decision and draw the line. when
Yeah.
it needs to. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to treat everyone the same. Yeah, I've had experience of exactly that, what Travis wrote when my first managerial, one of my first not the first, the second one, the second managerial role was being promoted above my team. Yeah. And of course, there were some difficult times with not with everyone, with some of them, but my approach was the same, yeah? Same for everybody, and eventually they will see your value, but you have to be consistent right from the beginning and not rise to the negativity. Basically, just keep your positivity and make sure that you get to know them, earn their trust. What Zohrab is saying essentially is how to gain their trust, and eventually you will get there if you're consistent and stay positive. Yeah. A good question from Gwen there, Zohrab,
Yeah.
about age differences. Yeah, how do you manage more senior people? And this will also happen. Yeah, that you will at some time manage more senior people. Yeah,
I think maybe Gwen, we sometimes is to reframe, what if it's the other way around? How am I going to handle it?
also tough.
Right?
Gen
Yeah.
Z.
I think this is going to be a reality at the workplace. There will be more younger generation have to manage the elder generation. So whilst we are not able to control the immediate change from the elder ones, the more experienced generation, what the current generation, the younger one, can do is really to begin building or earning your trust, whereby how you leverage on their experience, how not to single or not to, sometimes what may happen is we try to alienate them. Because I've seen what happens is that I got to manage someone who is older than me, and this person always have tasted more salt than you. And what will happen is the manager is like that okay lah, I focus on the rest first. I take the easy way out, and I begin to alienate this person, and soon this is going to be toxic. For me, the right opportunity come again, going back to even what I said, to what Irene mentioned. There's nothing wrong having a conversation to understand. Be open to one another. Because what you do not know, the senior may also need to know what you know in this context. You may be better in particular capability, what the organization is going on, especially in the current age of technological advancements, this whole digital transformation. You are in a better position to be able to explain to the elder generation, this is actually what it means, and this is how we're going to use it. And they will appreciate that. And if we do not know how it actually can connect with the current processes, how it's been done before, that's where you are able to have a common meeting of minds to have that conversation. To me, ultimately, through my years, and that's where I believe that's why Mui Han has got this saying that there's a bit of correlation with the extrovert versus introvert, is because the more I use extrovert in the loose sense, if you're able to be the one who initiate, the one who is going to go and talk to another person, having a conversation with another person is going to make a lot of difference in terms of how successful you are going to be ultimately.
Yeah. I think what you said, meaning that, let's say you're having a one-to-one every 2 weeks with your team members, but then the one that you don't get along with, you change it to once a month. So that will start the alienation process, and people will see, they will notice, they will feel it, and that doesn't serve you well. So it's about being consistent and making that effort to get to know your team member, whatever their demographic is. Yeah, we're gonna have more Gen Z as well, and we're gonna have the small seniors, and everyone has something to bring to the team. And again, going back to the what you said about focusing on their strength, right? It's about that, earning that trust and focusing on their strength to work as a team.
And if you know there are certain areas that they need help, that means there are areas of development. then start to coach them. And they will appreciate you for that eventually.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's right. Yeah, I also realized that very early on. As soon as you are invested in their personal development, then the faster you can earn their trust. So therefore, find out the strength and then what areas need improvement. And we don't want to focus too much on weaknesses either, but areas that could be improved a little bit better, then spend some training money on that very early on, and they'll appreciate that.
Mm.
So a comment from Nimala here about in the government setting, hearsay method of feedback is very prevalent. No comment from me.
Never been there, so we cannot comment on that experience.
Yeah, cannot comment. And then Irene said be about building trust. Yeah, we covered that already. Dato Alias mentioning to Gwen, clench your teeth and do your best. Need to have honest, open conversation. Thank you, Dato. And then Nimala, I believe being an introvert is fine as long as brilliant ideas in that quiet but working hard brain is translated. Absolutely. We have a myriad of personalities in my team. And if everyone is extrovert, I think I will also go crazy. We need a balance. Muihan mentioned about the Gen Z need more frequent feedback. Maybe can comment on that based on your experience, gentlemen. Yeah, maybe Zohrab first. I don't have too many in my team, but
Kena Tai Chi, I hear. Okay.
you want to Tai Chi. Maybe I can start first. I don't have too many, and what I realize is they need more direct feedback. So if I do the softer approach, they might not understand it's a problem. So I realize that with them, the more blunt is that the more blunt I am, the better. Yeah. That's the only way in terms of how I give feedback differently to the Gen Z. Yeah.
I actually agree with you perspective. I mean, to Muihan's question, I think today the Gen Z is a generation that perhaps misunderstood by many of us. Why? It's because they are the most efficient in the sense of using technology and also the way they program their thinking to their action. You will realize that everything that they say is short.
Yep.
So that's why when you go feedback, you have to go direct to the point. It's all about laser sharp. And hence they lose us most of the time when we go round and round or we tend to speak long.
Yeah, that's right.
They just want to, hey, I just need A and B. Don't tell me A, B, C, D, E.
Right, yeah. Tell me what didn't work. What do you expect to see next? Yeah.
And then trust me that I will go and find out. I'll go and figure out.
Yeah.
Right? That's my experience.
Different.
I got okay lah. I still have 2 millennials so-called at home. Same lah. Not go long, no long cerita. Go to the point.
It's a bit like your WhatsApp message, right? It has to be short and sweet also.
Yes.
So Farah here, who's a new trainee who is Gen Z, she said that I'm grateful when my manager is able to give me constructive feedback and provide opportunity for me to grow. Yeah, thank you for that, Farah.
Yes.
And Dato Alia said it's more that they wish to see their superior or bosses who tend to forget them at work. Oh no, I don't forget them at work. Muihan asks Farah, how frequent you expect that feedback? How frequent, Farah? Is Farah still around? Can type or you can also unmute. And then Jason, I think, commenting on Nimala just now, in government, all are paid the same based on seniority. So therefore, okay, no comment also. No comment from me also. Okay, Zohrab, do you realize what time it is?
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you everyone for
9:57.
patiently. Yes.
So we are way over time already, and we haven't even gone to slide number 3, 4, or 5.
Save it for episode 12.
obviously this is a topic that Zohrab spent how many days doing the training? Maybe 3 days of training, right? I mean,
This one, it's either 1 day or 2 days. It's all customized to application.
right. Yeah, so we're trying to cover it in 1 hour. Obviously, only touching the surface on this important topic. But I believe what we touch are the fundamentals of what you need to get right when you become a manager. Obviously, the real training is the practice about how you give feedback, how you get to know your team and all that. That's a practical aspect. And tonight is what we say the theoretical aspect of it. So I want to say thank you, Zohrab, so much for tonight. And thank you, everybody, for the great question, great comments that keep the discussion going. We really appreciate that. And let's see if I can convince Zohrab to come on again for part 2 some other time. Let's see. So thank
Pleasure.
you very much. And if you can give us a little bit of feedback, that would be quite nice. What you enjoyed tonight, you can just type it on the chat there. So most of this has been thank you from Gwen for for us being interactive. Sushan
Thank you,
also said
Gwen.
thank you everybody.
Yeah.
And I just want to finish with I have a TikTok channel where I share about career development, just something a bit of fun, and I try to cakap Melayu for TikTok. And I have a newsletter where I write longer pieces again about career development. And if you want to be in touch with Zohrab, if you haven't already, this is his LinkedIn profile and the QR code where you can be in touch with him.
Yes.
So thank you again, everybody, and good night. Thank you very much, Zohrab.
A pleasure. So thank you everyone
Bye-bye,
again.
everyone.
And a good night and have a wonderful rest of the evening. And let's have a
Good
great
night. It's really good.
Thank you, Nirmala.
Thank you, Nimala. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very good, Zohrab. About 20 people. So that was more than 50%. Because normally that is the run rate, normally about that. Yeah.
Okay. Good to hear that.
Yeah. Right. Hang on. How do I
Stop.
stop? Okay.
The bottom.